this is C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for InvictaFC 3. As far as picks go, I didn't do very well. I got 7 out of 14, so I only got half of them correct. Yeah. As far as the card goes, though, we did get to see some prospects out there like Jessamine Duke. You know, we got to see the new atomweight champion here. You know, some people just kind of progress up the ladder, like Kat Zingano, Shayna Baszler, got some really good fights as well. In the prelim card alone, I mean, you got out of 6 fights, 5 of them ended in the first round. I mean, there were a lot of finishes. Most fights, except for like the Vanessa Porto versus Tara LaRosa fight, were pretty entertaining. Even the fights that went to decision were pretty entertaining. Lots of good finishes here. So yeah, it's, you know, it was, I thought it was a really good night for Invicta here. It's I'm curious to see, you know, moving forward, what new titles they're gonna have. I think they should have a 135-pound title, maybe a 115-pound title, but they need to get like Jessica Aguilar, because you know, and they have like Carlos Esparza, who's doing really well at 115. So overall, yeah, it was just a really good card as far as women's MMA goes. You know, you can still kind of see, one thing that I really noticed too is there's a couple mismatches here, and then the other thing is that you can really see within some of these mismatches like the disparity in skill level. And you know, it's not trying to insult any of these fighters or anything. It just, you know, it's just something you can kind of see. And yeah, you know, I'm not questioning like the heart of anyone or anything. It's just, you know, you can tell that like fighter A was clearly superior than fighter B. And in that sense, I think what's really good about Invicta is like you're starting to separate like the wheat from the chaff in a sense, where you can slowly but surely you can kind of see who is like top or a top fighter in a certain division, you know. So with that said, let's get started. Jessica Penne beat Naho Sugiyama by triangle choke in the second round to become the first ever InvictaFC atomweight champion. This was pretty cool because when I was watching this fight with a friend, when they went to the corner after round 1, you couldn't really hear the commentary, but I think it was Jake Allenberger that was in the corner, and you saw him doing a bunch of jabs, and you can tell, okay, that, yeah. And Penny was doing this in the fight. She was like keeping Sugiyama away with her jab. The other thing is, in this fight, I think Penny pretty much had an advantage like everywhere. Is on the feet, I think she was definitely getting Sugiyama with the jab, especially on the ground. Penny again was superior. It's really flexible too. That triangle choke finish, that's, you know, what's funny with this fight too is like when we're watching this fight, I didn't actually think it would go to a finish. Like after the first round, I was like, okay, I think we're just going to see a lot of, you know, what we saw in the first round in the next couple rounds. And you know, that didn't happen. So that was pretty cool. You know, I tend to forget, it's like, oh yeah, women really do go for the finish. That's one thing I noticed with like pretty much a lot of these fights. It's like, even the ones that went to decision, you can kind of tell that the the fighters were definitely trying to finish the fight. So that triangle choke setup that Penny did was really good. Just grabbed the arm. She sneaked her leg over the shoulder and got that triangle choke. It was against the cage, dude. It wasn't like an ideal position. One thing with Jessica Penne, though, she's just so flexible. And so as far as like what happens next though with Jessica Penne, it's kind of interesting because I guess they can go with like Michelle Waterson next. She's definitely the most like one of the more remarkable fighters in the division. Stephanie Frosso just beat Amy Davis. I know like Nick Daly, Kalanick Rivera. She won her last fight in Invicta at 105 as well. So you don't really have this. Yeah, I mean, I can see them going with like Waterson versus Penne next, but it kind of seems like they don't have like a whole bunch of options at 105. So it's really interesting that they wanted to make this the first division, or the first division to have a title. I think I can only name like 8 fighters in the division, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's my guess. It'd probably be Michelle Waterson versus Jessica Penne next. So next fight after that, Shayna Baszler beat Sarah DeLalio by a rear naked choke in the second round. In hindsight, I picked DeLalio to win this fight, and in hindsight, I obviously seeing that Baszler won, I should have picked Baszler. But initially what I thought was that DeLalio would be able to match her on the ground, and really that wasn't the case. Baszler was just really superior on the ground and just has great back control. You can also see like the Josh Barnett influence in that she's really heavy when she's on top. I mean, she's just crushing. Seriously, I mean, she makes it look like hell for the fighter on bottom. When they fight, and Josh Barnett, he's really good at doing that once he gets on top of his opponent. It's just hell to be on the bottom of this fighter, and Baszler really showed that. It was a really cool rear naked choke because Sarah DeLalio was still on her knees while it happened. The thing is too is that this was at 135 pounds, and I would have thought that they would have probably made a title for this division just because it's the deepest division out there for women's MMA. I mean, you got Baszler, DeLalio, Leslie Smith, Caitlin Young, Kat Zingano, prospects like Jasmine Duke, Marsha Allen, despite losing, still a prospect. Despite losing, Raquel Pennington, still a prospect. Sarah Kaufman, Sarah McMahon. So, I mean, there's a lot of people for Baszler to fight next. Morris Kuna is another one that can probably cut to, if she wanted to cut to 135. Miesha Tate, of course, is there as well. Julie Kedzie, so there's a lot of people for like someone like Baszler or even DeLalio to fight. I think that they should probably make a 135-pound title. You got a lot of talent here. 3 of the fights on the card were 135-pound fights, and then there's a lot of other fighters. Sarah Kaufman was supposed to fight on this card. Did I say 3? I meant 4 of these fights are at 135 pounds. So I really think they should do a 135-pound tournament and name an InvictaFC bantamweight champion. It makes sense. It's a deep division. There's a lot of fighters. There's like I said, there are 4 of these fights are at 135 pounds. You have a lot of females that are coming off wins. Kat Zingano, Shayna Baszler, Leslie Smith, you know, on other cards, you know, Liz Carmouche on the last Invicta, card 1, you know, and Strikeforce Misha Tate just beat Judy Kedzie. So there's, you know, Amanda Nunez is in that mix as well. So I think that's where they should go, to be perfectly honest with you. Next fight after that, Leslie Smith beat Caitlin Young by TKO in the second round. I thought that this fight would be similar to the first fight in that it would remain standing. Caitlin Young definitely made a tactical error in here when she went for a clinch and pushed Leslie Smith against the cage. Big mistake. Leslie Smith showed to be the superior grappler. I think she kind of dove for a leg lock and managed to get some really crazy rolls up to like her side mount, and then like the crucifix that just ended the fight. It was you know, it was a really good showing for Smith, which is in a way surprising because she only has like 7 fights. Training with Cesar Gracie, you can definitely see the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu influence there. Her striking isn't the best on a technical sense. It's just she's more of a brawler, but she has a good chin, and she's definitely really aggressive. But yeah, her ground game was really strong. I was really impressed by it, actually. You know, she went for a lot of different submissions. Was really strong in the scramble. So yeah, it was, you know, got a really nice crucifix, and Caitlin Young just had nowhere. I mean, she trapped both arms and just started punching her clean in the face. I mean, she just had nowhere to go. So it was a really good win for Leslie Smith here. As far as who she's fighting next, I'm thinking something like Amanda Nunez. That'd be a pretty cool fight. Could kind of, you could give her like a Jessamine Duke, because, you know, both Jessamine Duke's like 2-0, or it's like Leslie Smith's like 4-2-1. You know, so it's not like it's not giving like a mismatch or anything like that. You can even give her like a Kat Zingano. I mean, she's a good fighter. So that's the thing. Okay, next fight after that, 125 pounds. Barb Honchak beat Aisling Daly by unanimous decision. This is one of those fights where I kind of just mentioned in the beginning how you can kind of start to notice who's more in the top division and who's not. Skill-wise, I mean, it's, you know, Daly's got a lot of heart. She was in it the fight the whole time, but you can tell skill-wise that Honchak was just a better all-around fighter. Better striker, better wrestler, better BJJ practitioner. I mean, it just really showed. She's definitely a lot, like, I guess, cleaner with her technique than Daly was, and that showed big time. You can kind of tell that for 125, Barb's kind of high up there. You know, the only other 125er to fight on this card was Vanessa Porto, or fight that was on was Vanessa Porto versus Tara La Rosa. You know, you can also do Barb Honchak versus like I think she's fought like Jessica I at 125 as well. She beat Roxanne Modafferi already, so I can't. 125 is like a weird division because like I can't really name too many fighters in this division quite yet. I think Karina Dam's in this division as well. It's kind of like that division that's definitely gonna need to get built up. You know, I don't exactly know who's in this division. I think I can only name like 6 fighters in the division, to be perfectly honest with you. But you know, Barb Honchak, definitely a well-rounded fighter. Interested to see where they're gonna go next. Logical choice is probably gonna be Vanessa Porto. Yeah, and next fight after that, Vanessa Porto beat Tara La Rosa by unanimous decision. Definitely not the most aesthetically pleasing fight. It was just pretty much, you know, Vanessa Porto beating up Tara La Rosa with leg kicks, and right hands. I mean, seriously, that was it. LaRosa, she didn't make weight. She looks slow. She hasn't looked great lately. I gotta wonder if she just has a lot of mileage on her, you know. Great fighter, tough as nails, man. I mean, she would not go down, you know. She kept fighting until the end. And that's one thing you can say about all these fighters. I mean, they all would just fight till the very end. I mean, it's very admirable to see. I think what's really cool is seeing a lot of women's MMA is, if you're the type that doesn't like to see point fighting, and you want to see like a fight, you know, women's MMA kind of provides that, where you're just kind of like, okay, these fighters are just gonna fight till like the bitter end. You know, they're not gonna fight for points. They're gonna try and finish. You know, and even here you can kind of see it. I mean, Porter was finding a lot smarter strategy, sprawling when LaRosa was going for takedowns. She wasn't overcommitting, which is good, but still landing huge damage to LaRosa. So yeah, you know, it's kind of sad to see LaRosa get beat up that bad, but you know, that's pretty much what happened. I mean, I can't really say much else. You know, it's great win for Porto here. I think she should probably fight Barb Honchak next. With LaRosa, I mean, she's just, you know, I'm not gonna say she's a stop fighting or anything like that. She just looked like a fighter that had a lot of mileage on her. That's the thing. Okay, next fight with that, Kat Zingano beat Raquel Pennington by rear naked choke in the second round. Kat Zingano is a really interesting fighter. You know, she's getting in clinch. She has some pretty strong wrestling, and her stand-up's not that bad either. She's definitely just a really well-rounded fighter. Doesn't have too many fights either, like 6-0, 7-0, something like that. I think she might be 8-0 now. You know, and she's on a good division at 135 pounds. She's signed with Strikeforce. And Strikeforce isn't signing her just for the sake of signing her. Obviously, they need challengers for Ronda Rousey. And I can see Kat Zingano, undefeated, well-rounded fighter, you know, eventually in the near future, you know, fighting Ronda Rousey. In Invicta, though, you know, I mean, she can fight a Baszler, she can fight a Carmouche, she can fight Sarah Kaufman. I mean, there's a lot of good fights for her, you know. Assuming that these women that fight in Strikeforce can fight in Invicta like we've been seeing. With Pennington, she's still prosperous. She's still kind of new, you know, and it kind of shows. She should probably fight like a Marsha Allen or something like that, you know. Yeah, next fight after that, Michelle Waterson beat Lacey Schuckman by unanimous decision. Very close fight too. It was just a case, especially in the first round, Schuckman mounted Waterson. Waterson needs a lot of work. You know, there's times when she's trying to be flashy when she probably shouldn't be. You know, it was good that she managed to get some top control on Schuckman. But yeah, you know, it was a fun fight. I think Michelle Waterson definitely got the better of the stand-up on Schuckman. When she was on top, you know, she did really well. But yeah, you know, it was really close in that first round. I kind of thought she would lose to me. I thought she was going to lose, and that didn't happen. I get, you know, my guess is, because I can't think of any 135-pound fighters out there that's really that well known, I'm guessing that Waterson's going to fight Jessica Penne, you know. Next fight was that Julia Budd beat Danielle West by TKO in the first round. Julia Budd's definitely showing more of a good offensive grappling game, and just getting a lot of ground and pound victories as of late. 145 is just that one, you know, it's like, it's Cyborg and, like, no one else. I think, you know, she even fought, like, Jermaine Durandami, you know, and beat her already. It's like, there's, like, no one at 145. You could do Julia Budd versus, Marlos Kunin. I like Kunin better at 135 anyways. So there's not many people for Julia Budd to fight. I can see her fight Cyborg just because she's 145 pounds, you know, and she's pretty, you know, she's a pretty good fighter too. So, but it's just like she doesn't have too many options, which is kind of sad. But you know, good one for her, you know. Dana West, she was supposed to fight Elena Maxwell. I guess Elena Maxwell versus Julia Budd would actually be a really good fight for her next. I do like Julia Budd's overall progression. Like I said, like in her last, like, what, 2 or 3 fights now, she's shown more of an offensive wrestling game. You don't even get to see much of her stand-up anymore. She usually takes her opponent down and tries to get the dominant position and, you know, rains down ground and pound. It's nice to see fighters improve their game. Okay, on to the prelims. Carla Esparza beat Lynn Alvarez by TKO in the first round. This is all Esparza. Esparza's interesting. She always wears that singlet, you know. But she's been doing really well for herself as of late. I know she's only lost to, like, what, Aguilar and, jeez, I forgot who else she lost. Say, like, Frausto or something like that. But, you know, she's a really good wrestler. She's a really good top control. And her ground and pound, I mean, she was just, like, it was funny because, like, there were a couple, like, armbar opportunities and whatnot, and she just kept pounding on her foe. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, she just kept pounding on her. At 115, geez, I mentioned, like, what, you know, there's, like, Megumi Fuji, Jessica Aguilar, yeah, Tessia Torres won her fight, but the thing is, you know, Felice Harry's in this division, but, like, Esparza's beaten a good amount of the top 5, or fought already a lot of the more well-known 115-pound fighters. So it's going to be really interesting to see who they give her next. Next after that, oh, you could give her Joan Calderwood, actually. Joan Calderwood beat Ashley Cummins by knockout by knee in the first round. Man, I gotta say, I thought Ashley Cummins was a lock to win this one, to be honest. I've been really impressed with Ashley Cummins. I mean, it was just, I always thought that she was, like, one of the most well-rounded female prospects I've seen. She got knocked out pretty bad. I mean, she got kneed. It was either a rib shot or a liver shot, and she was just out. One thing about Calderwood, she's just a lot taller, and it looks like Cummins had a really hard time getting into her range. You know, and the last time I saw Calderwood fight was in Super Fight against Lena Ovichin, or I think that's her name. But, you know, that was pretty brutal. Her stand-ups, you know, pretty legit, actually. And I liked what I saw, you know, with her utilization of reach and range, and that knee, that finish, it was pretty brutal. Back to the drawing board for Cummins with Calderwood. I can't think of many 115-pound fighters. You know, Carla Esparza is as good as any fighter she can fight. And next right after that, Stephanie Frausto beat Amy Davis by submission, 48 seconds in the first round. Frausto was just on Davis like a pit bull, man. She just charged at her. I think she threw some strikes. You know, took her down. Amy Davis went for her own takedown, which was ill-advised. Romance Sweep tried to go for her own takedown, got guillotined. I mean, that was the fight. Yeah, good improvement from Frausto here. I I think she's pretty much. I think this is her first cut at 105, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure if she fought Diana Real at 105 or 115. But she was good in this division, you know. There's not many people I can think of she can fight, really. It's like, I'm guessing like Rivera Kalanick, you know. So yeah, good win for her. Next fight after that, Jessamyn Duke beat Marsha Allen by armbar in the first round. I really like what I see from Jessamyn Duke. I think she's just a really strong prospect at 135 pounds. She's tall, and she uses her reach. I was back and forth with this pick, and then when the fight started, I was like, oh man, I really should have picked Jessamyn Duke. You know, she uses her reach well. She has a good ground game as well. You know, I mean, it's kind of funny about the whole thing with, like, I guess there's a hair pulling thing, and then Jessamyn Duke was getting ground and pounded and removed her mouthpiece to try and communicate with the ref. When nothing happened from that, she went for an armbar and won. You know, it's like, and the ref didn't see the armbar. Bad reffing on that part. Both these are still prospects, but man, I am really impressed with Jessamyn Duke. To be honest with you. You know, I don't know who they can really give her next. Maybe like a Caitlin Young. You don't necessarily have to give her. That's pretty high up there. You could give her like a Raquel Pennington, or maybe even a Leslie Smith. That, you know, if you really want to test her. But you can tell, like, there are you know, 135-pound women's is like their deepest division, and there are prospects in this division as well that are definitely coming up. I really like what I see from Duke. You know, she has good knees. She showed it in the last Invicta. I like that she uses her range, and her ground game's good as well. You know, definitely someone I'm gonna look out for in the division. Another one, person I'm gonna look out for is Tesha Torres, as she beat Canna Rain by unanimous decision. Good takedown defense from Torres. Good kickboxing. She was finding a home for her hands. You know, I was really impressed with her hands. She was just finding a home on Canna Rain's face, pretty much. The other thing, you know, what's really interesting about these fights too is, like, you know, especially in this one, a lot of these girls look like they can go 5 rounds pretty easy. Like, their cardio is like really good. Like Tesha Torres, when she was done fighting, it's actually like she could have gone 10 rounds. I mean, she just had like massive energy. You know, I'm kind of wondering though, because she had to reach to punch. I gotta wonder if she can cut to 105. If she needs to, or I don't know if she even needs to at this point, because, you know, but like Calderwood, she's pretty tall. I think that could be troublesome for Torres. Sparsley is a good wrestler. I gotta wonder if the Tiny Tornado can cut down to 105. As of right now, though, like I said, she doesn't really need to. I really liked what I saw, and the commentary said something that was really telling as well, is that this was both of their first pro MMA bout. And while it was like sloppy at times, you know, this was better than a lot of pro MMA bouts that I've seen. Stand-up wise, you know, it wasn't that bad. That's the thing. It wasn't super, you know, it got sloppy here and there, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't that sloppy, and it was overall just a fun fight. You know, like I said, I can't really think of too many fighters at 115, so it's like, I mean, you can give her some of the winners here, like Calderwood or Esparza. That's kind of high up there. You could give her like a Lynn Alvarez. That'd be pretty interesting. Ashley Cummins. Like I said, that I kind of think Ashley Cummins would be. I'm still pretty high on her. I think she might be able to beat Torres, but, you know, that's the other. See, that's one of the problems with women's MMA right now. Like, there are a lot of fighters coming up, but there's no set hierarchy yet, so you can't really tell how good a fighter is in the division, because a lot of these fighters haven't had a lot of fights. Hopefully that changes in the future, but I really did like what I saw from Tesha Torres. Yep, and finally at 145 pounds, Edion Gomes beat Catalina Mangahu by rear naked choke in the first round. Mangahu definitely had the better hands, but Gomes, man, her ground game was far superior. Mangahu didn't really seem like she knew what to do down there. There's not many fights at 145, you know. I mean, it's one of those things. It's if you can cut to 135, do so. If not, there's just not a lot of guys you can fight, or not a lot of females that you can fight. And I think of like Romy Russin, maybe, that Edion Gomez can fight. Daniel West. Otherwise, I can't think of many other people or females that can fight at 145. So, overall, yeah, that's pretty much it for my InvictaFC 3 post-fight analysis. It was a good card. I'm curious to see what their next card looks like. I like that they got a lot of international talent. You know, I want them to have more cards, just because it looks like Invicta is the organization that's gonna set the overall ranking and hierarchy for women's mixed martial arts. I mean, really, I can't see any other organization. You know, you see one-off fights in XFC, NAFs, you know, I think Titan has a, you know, you see a couple one-off fights here and there, but there's no organization that really sets like a hierarchy for women's mixed martial arts. And like, you know, with Invicta, you know, they have 14 fights on the card. You know, but they kind of have to. There's enough female fighters. They have like 5, 15, 5 weight divisions here, you know. And they're pretty much it. They're the only ones that can really give you an idea of who's on the top, who's in the middle, and who's on the bottom, you know. And they're the only ones that can really show these, you know, bring out these prospects. You know, I wouldn't know who Jessamine Duke is if I didn't see Invicta. Same with Tesha Torres. You know, it's like I didn't know who they are before Invicta, and now I do. And now it's like, oh, cool, I want to see them fight again. You know, so that's the thing. I really hope in 2013 that Invicta can have more than like what they have, like 3 or 4. I think it's 4 cards a year, maybe 3. It's the end of the year right now, so 3 cards a year. You know, I'm hoping they can have a card every 2 months. To be honest, I think that would be ideal. I'm also a bit curious to see if they can get like a TV deal or not. I'm sure they've probably been offered, but it looks like they definitely have good control over the product, which is really nice to see. Their matchmaking, for the most part, like, it's good, because at least from a records point of view, you're getting girls, or you're getting female fighters that have close to, you know, that have similar records that are fighting each other. Sometimes, though, you get mismatches, because it doesn't always reflect skill. But otherwise, I mean, you have to do that, because how else are you going to know who's a good fighter and who's not? So, you know, I like what I really hope that Invicta is going to pick up even more and have more shows. I hope it stays. Honestly, it's a very unique product. You know, it's converted a lot of guys that used to not watch women's MMA now into fans of women's mixed martial arts. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any comments, just leave them below, and that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.